Hello, thank you. I mean, obviously, it's like, hello, how are you, and the usual niceties. I also should add, I'm not a Nazi. Like, that's a new thing that you just add to be polite.
Hi, Dan Harmon. You don't know who I am, but you know what? It was a pleasure for the last 2 seasons to watch Rick and Morty, to watch it grow in popularity and be really funny. It's not so much of a pleasure to watch the new season of Rick and Morty though. You really need to up the quality really badly because it's deteriorating. But you know what? This is a speech that's not about Rick and Morty, obviously. I mean, why else would you start it in a very weird way saying you're not a Nazi? Because everybody knows when you are in a conversation with a person, when you're doing a speech to people, you must make it clear you're not literally Hitler, because we have to now, otherwise we might have an Antifa member with his baseball bat and his bag ready and waiting to bash the Fasch. And we need to tell this person that we are not Fasch, so he doesn't need to bash. I get it, Harmon. I get it, even though it's weird. I get it. You're actually adapting to the current political climate in America. Nice.
That's the new minimum definition of interhuman communication. You want to start, I'm not a Nazi. You have to know that.
It would go a little something.
And then you say, oh, Dan, you're pandering, you're virtue signaling, right? Isn't that what you call it? You fucks?
Yeah.
You say you're not a Nazi, and then you get a big bell and a cookie, because that's so easy to say you're not a Nazi. Well, no, it's not that easy to say, is it? It's not easy to say you're not a Nazi. The president has a difficult time.
Well, yeah, it is virtue signaling. You're trying to make out that you are a good person because you are not a Nazi, whereas we know you don't necessarily have to not be a Nazi to be a good person. Communists. Oh, I'm sorry, I just mentioned a dirty word. Let me rephrase that. Nerds, that's another one. That's a proper one. That's a good term. That's a term that's politically correct to use, because that's a group that you love to exploit when you like to make a new cartoon series or anything like that. And then you will obviously group us all together as Nazis, because that's the community that you're from. You are a social justice warrior. That's what you guys do. Roylands, dump him. He's not good for you. I don't need to know that you are a Nazi. I don't need to know that you are a good person, because when you're going around telling everybody that you're not a Nazi, you're definitely not a Nazi, and that you're definitely a good person, I for one will get really suspicious, like most normal people, and will assume that you could well be a Nazi, and you could well not be a very nice person. I don't know. I'm not a good judge of character. Well, why should he have to say he's not a Nazi? He quite clearly is not a Nazi by definition of being in the Republican Party and by denouncing them in his speech. Quite clearly not very Nazi actions there, mate. You know you don't have to say it in order to prove that you are not it. What is this? McCarthyism?
And he has no repercussions to fear, really, except for some Nazis not voting for him.
Implying they ever voted for him in the first place. He is so far to the left of them, he would be considered a leftist. Hell, you could probably still consider him one, because it wasn't long ago that he was supporting the Democrats. Nazis didn't vote for Donald Trump. Republicans voted for Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders supporters voted for Donald Trump. Apolitical centrists voted for Donald Trump. Pretty much anybody who didn't like Hillary, didn't like the current political climate that we're in, plus, some Republicans who will vote for them anyway. You do have those party stalwarts. Those are the types of people that vote for Donald Trump. Nazis don't vote for the centre-right or the centre-left or anything like that. They vote for their own. Or they try to remove people from being able to do that. But they can't do that anymore because they're weak, they're tiny, and well, they don't have the manpower or the power itself to do such a thing.
And he has traded that today. He has officially decreed, to the extent that a compulsively dishonest parasite can decree anything, he has decreed that he is a Nazi because there are people goose-stepping down a main street in the heart of America, wherever the fuck that place is.
It was called Charleston, and the woman died, just so you know. And by the way, I would just like to point out, when you denounce Nazis, and also Antifa, that does not make you a Nazi, nor does it make you a communist. How the hell has he decreed that he is a Nazi? By calling them out. Since when did calling out Nazis make you a Nazi? You want him to say he's not a Nazi, he calls them out without having to say, because once you call them out, by definition, by default, you are not a Nazi. He is now a Nazi because he didn't say it. Are you retarded? You're a filmmaker or a TV show guy. You should know better. You don't need to tell, you just need to show. That's like one of the golden rules of filmmaking, and it also has an application in real life. Jesus, Harmon, you are just so disingenuous, it's unreal.
And it would have been so easy to trade a couple of Nazi votes for what he might have hoped would be a couple of non-Nazi votes. Perhaps the easiest votes to get of all.
And he did get those votes. You are basically saying every Republican supporter, every Bernie Sanders supporter who voted for Donald Trump, all the other people who voted for Donald Trump, regardless of affiliations of ideology or philosophy or what have you, are Nazis. But you, because you didn't vote for Donald Trump, because you're a leftist, you are therefore clean. You are a good person. You're not a Nazi because you said you weren't a Nazi. Well, you should know that people lie, Harmon. I got your number. He did not get Nazi votes. Why would Nazis vote for Donald Trump? Yes, some of the alt-right liked him, but now they don't, since, well, he started getting rid of people in his cabinet that they might like to some degree because they were pandered to, or maybe some policy things that he's done they disagree with, such as bombing Syria. That lost him a lot of support actually amongst the alt-right because they don't think they should be going out there shooting up Arabs like most people in America and the world. And now that Bannon's gone, he's just being considered another globalist. I mean, shock horror, right? A guy who owns a corporation, who pretty much is a corporatist and supported corporatist politicians all his life, is a globalist, or is considered a globalist. Imagine my shock.
Simple non-Nazi votes. Low-hanging Democratic fruit, it's been called. I promise to not be a Nazi. You're hired these days.
Exactly. You do get hired when you are considered left-wing enough. If you're considered right-wing or Republican or a conservative, you can get fired just for thinking that way. Nice observation.
He couldn't do it. He couldn't bring himself to do it. And that is as close as you're going to get with a coward to his saying, I'm a Nazi,
Dan,
which is what he said.
He just wants to be loved.
Yeah.
I like how this is comedy to social justice warriors, and you can clearly see, I'll get on topic in a little bit, who the actual brains behind Rick and Morty is. I mean, it's clearly Roiland's, because Harmon isn't funny at all, and his little pals aren't funny either. Like, let's be honest, he's just a producer. He just pulls all the strings to get funding and stuff, and casting and writers, and that's why it's gone to shit. Roiland doesn't write anymore, hence everything is shit. I will do a video on that. Don't worry about it. Anyway, on topic, look, again, how is he a coward when he's already called them out? And when you call someone out, again, I have to repeat myself because he's repeating himself. When you've called a Nazi out, you are not a Nazi by default. He's not being a coward. In fact, he's being very brave in calling out both sides, because usually they only call out one side. And in a strange way, even though some of the Nazis were there for a fight, to be honest, who started the fight? Antifa. But you're going to ignore all the facts because we've got a narrative to push. Narrative to push, guys.
By Nazis.
And just wanting to be loved is important and human. We all just want to be loved. And the big question is, when you are not loved and a Nazi is across the street going, yoo-hoo, do you go back to being not loved or walk across the street?
Where does this "he wants to be loved" come from? Did he say this in a press conference or an interview? I don't get it. It's not funny. It doesn't make any sense. You cannot meme.
That is what this civil war, and I promise you that's what's brewing, is going to be all about. And it's fucking over. The discourse is over. We have sat, we have talked, we have argued, we have pondered. The discourse is over. These people that tweet you when you retweet somebody, when you just say a simple fact that should not cause you to get a knot in your stomach, like, I'm not a Nazi, The people that tweet you and say, nor am I, but just out of curiosity.
You see, this is what a social justice warrior would say who blocks everybody. Yes, I know you block everybody, Harmon. You see, the thing is, there was no discourse. When there was an attempt to do discourse, you guys do nothing but shit on it. You used it to basically poison the well, to use it as propaganda, to say, look how evil these Nazis are. This is what happens when there is no discourse. Violence. When you guys try to shut down the conversation, when you guys decide, oh no, we've got no arguments, what can we do to stop these people? Well, let's hit them. That's essentially what's happened. And you are now essentially saying that the time for talking is over. We need to start bashing the Fasch, right? We need to bash some skulls in, as if you haven't done that already. As if that's not already happening right now. And it seems to me like you want this civil war. Are you mad? Do you know what happened when the left and the right in the Spanish Civil War fought each other? I mean, the left were all in this horrible alliance anyway. They didn't like each other, but that's besides the point. Do you know what happened? Franco came to power, didn't he? Let's not have a repeat of that.
Just tell them to go fuck themselves. The discourse is over. The war has begun. You're not talking to Nazis anymore. You're not talking to people that want to entertain the notion of being a Nazi anymore. You don't want to talk to people that want to circumscribe the concept of Nazism within a fucking Socratic dialectic about goddamn whether Nazi. They're fucking Nazis. It's the bedrock of humanity. It is so low that the worst people in the world find it, and that's where they rally. And it's so low, we have gotten so bad that a third of our country has gotten there. 29% of the people are fucking Nazis.
Whew, that's a lot to take in, people. Breathe in. Let's breathe in. Okay, Dan. 29% of the population are not Nazis. I assume they're Republicans. That's not the same as being a Nazi. And I like how you are suggesting that we should tell them to go fuck themselves, let's stop talking, which you don't do. The hard left don't talk, and when they do, it's always for their own nebulous reasons, but you are suggesting we go out there and start the second Spanish Civil War, or the second American Civil War. That's what you want. And now you're demonising a whole section of society who aren't even Nazis. It's like, they're not even 1% of the population. You are demonising these people. You are actively calling for them to be attacked, to be ignored. Those people are going to become Nazis. Eventually that 29% that you think are Nazis because you don't know what Nazism actually is, you don't know what fascism is, they will become fascists. They will become Nazis because you pushed them in. The reason why that whole march happened, the Unite the Right march and all these other things, the alt-right gaining somewhat of a relevance, not quite prominent yet, it's because of people like you. Hard ultra-leftists who have this horrible authoritarian streak, who run everything. You run the media, you run most of the governments of the world, you influence most of the governments of the world to such an extent that conservatives in my country have similar traits to you. This is apparently not causing Nazis. No, Nazis are just springing up from the ether like NPCs in the video game. They just come out of nowhere, right? No. You radicalised them because you demonised these white men, these white working class men. You demonised them, and this is the result of 30 years of this. It started with the right, but the left took up the mantle, and now here we are, Nazis. Because these men have nowhere to turn to, because the centre-right don't want them, the centre-left don't seem to want them, the hard left certainly don't want them, but the hard right, oh yeah, they'll welcome them in, because that's foot soldiers, and this is what they've always done. Well done, Harmon. You've gone and created loads more Nazis with just 5 to 6 minutes of a speech.
Let's face it, that's a minority. We can beat them. We have to say, I'm not a Nazi, though.
You're a minority too, Dan. Most people are not Bay Area extremist leftists. So if we all just say, we're not communists, we're not Antifa, we're not extremist socialists, we're not Bay Area moralists, can we, get rid of you? We can beat you? Because we're definitely beating you. And that's why you guys are turning to violence.
2/3 of the country just don't want to be political. It's not politics to say you're not a Nazi.
Why are you getting so worked up? Why is it so important for you to say that we are not Nazis? Are you trying to create a list of people? Are you trying to put a Star of David on people so you know they're not Nazis? What good does that do? How does that stop Nazis? How does that stop fascism from rising? It doesn't. None of this does anything. Are you drunk? Are you high? And you're going mental here. You are going tomato-faced right now over Nazis. A joke of a movement, a joke of a people who you are assigning relevancy to, who you are swelling their numbers because of shit like this. I can't even respond to that. I've already responded to it.
It's like taking a shit! You just do it! Or you explode!
I can't tell if the audience agrees with him, that's why they're laughing, or if they're laughing at him, or if they're laughing out of embarrassment and cringe, because what? Like a shit. I think we're seeing him go full Shia LaBeouf. I mean, he even went, just do it. Harmon is having a Shia LaBeouf style meltdown right before our very eyes, and I'm glad I'm watching it, but on the other hand, I'm kind of very nervous. I feel like he's going to have a heart attack. He's a really fat fuck. So, yeah, Harmon, calm down. Deep breaths.
You die if you don't shit, and you die if you don't say you're not a Nazi!
I'm pretty sure that's not covered by the First Amendment. That should warrant at least an investigation. So, like a shit, because this is the extent of his comedic genius, you die if you don't shit, so you don't die if you declare you're not a Nazi. This is literally what he's saying. This is what he wants. This isn't what society is right now, but this is what he wants it to be. He's projecting his wants onto society. He wants it to be that Nazis should be killed for being Nazis. This guy warrants an FBI investigation or a police investigation, right? He's actively saying that you should go out and kill Nazis, or you should be killed if you don't say it. So even if you're a uber leftist, or a centre leftist, or a centre right, or centrist in general, if you don't say you're a Nazi, you might get killed, you might get shot. This is what they used to do in authoritarian communist regimes. This is what they used to do in Nazi Germany. If you didn't say you're a communist or a Jew or something, you could well be shot, because they'll just assume you are. And that's what you're going to do. Even if you don't say you are, even if you don't say it at all whatsoever, you will be shot, because they will just assume you're a Nazi. Because, as we've seen, SJWs don't take no for an answer. They don't. They don't take apologies, they don't take anything like that. You will get shot. Harmon, I think he needs to be arrested. That he's actively calling for violence. And I don't care what you all say, this goes beyond free speech. This is fighting words.
Fascism is a fucking cancer. It will eat your country unless your country kills it. Here's what happens when you get cancer. Nothing good. Nothing. There is no way out of it. I'm your country's doctor. You've got cancer.
You know what else is cancer? Communism. Millions died, as well as fascism. But I guess that makes me a Nazi, right?
You have fascism. You are going to suffer. You are going to fight. You are going to feel pain. You are not getting out of this. We have fascism. It is happening. We're fucking dead, maybe. Or maybe they're dead. That's about it. It's not a continuum. There's no gray area. It's not a fad. Fascism doesn't pop up and then recede when it finds out no one's into it. It doesn't respond to love. It doesn't respond to hate. It doesn't respond to ignoring it. It doesn't respond to timeouts. It doesn't respond to attention. It doesn't respond to lack of attention. You stab it. You cut it out. You bombard it with poison. Or you die. And in any case, you will probably die. Don't die talking to cancer.
You know, looking at this, I would have assumed you were a Nazi if we just replaced certain words like fascists and Nazis and Trump with Jews and, I don't know, let's think of a famous Jew, I don't know, Sacha Baron Cohen, or what else? Oh, black people. If you use those three words, I would have assumed you were a fascist right now. Again, I implore you people, he needs to be at least reported. He's advocating violence. He is saying to you, he is saying to other people from the social justice side, to the Antifa side, and everybody else, that if you're a Nazi, you should be killed, you should be fought. Again, How is this in any way to do with free speech? How is this in any way a good discourse? This is terrible. This guy is being totally serious here. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen? The fascists are going to get their guns, and they've got more guns than the leftists, because who's for gun control? The more left-wing people. So they've got more guns, they probably know how to use it better, and they're going to go and start shooting Antifa people. They're going to start shooting anybody who they think is left-wing, which is pretty much everybody to the left of them. We're going to see more Scalise-type shootings. We're going to see more fascists forming basically SS squadrons, the right-wing death squads as the meme goes, and they will start doing the same things Antifa does. At the moment, it's usually self-defense, but even in the Charlottesville thing, people were still egging for a fight on both sides. This is what he wants. And he'll get away with it because he's rich and he's an extreme leftist and he works in Hollywood. And I don't know what else we can do. When people like this are doing Rwandan genocide style speeches, you know shit is going to hit the fan soon.
Don't die hanging out with it. Don't die arguing with it on Twitter. It's fucking fascism. Enough. Team up. Stop bitching about Bernie Sanders. I don't care what flavor you want your democracy to be. It's democracy versus motherfucking fascism.
You aren't for democracy, Harmon. When you are advocating for the deaths of your political opponents, when you want them to be purged, you are not a Democrat. You are an authoritarian.
You can be as Bernie as you want. You gotta do it later, man. You gotta do it fucking later. You gotta do it later.
You got to oppose fascism.
All right, so I have fingernail questions. Because I went on a week-long trip and I was like...
That was a fucking hairpin turn, man.
I hope that was a joke, but it wasn't a joke, was it, people? Well, I really have nothing else to say. I'll just reiterate, no to political violence. I'll see you later.